Yesterday, AOC went live on Instagram and gave her full accounting of the day of the Capitol riots. She has posted the full clip on her Instagram if you want to go watch it, and it has almost 4 million views now, so it's going pretty big. However, before I get into the recounting of the story, I want to start out with why this is important. See, there have been many congresspeople who have came out with their stories about the day of the riots, with many saying they didn't have to deal with much of anything on that day. However, AOC's story holds so much more weight, not only because of the events that led up to and were part of the riots. Before talking about her own story, AOC wanted to talk about the messaging that she got from the day of the riots and the response after by specifically Republican congresspeople and senators. She said that she felt like she had to come out with this story because a lot of Republican senators and lawmakers such as Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz were basically trying to play this off as something that wasn't that significant. They were sending the message to people that they should just forget about it or that they should just get over it and that it wasn't really that big of a deal. However, AOC is going to push back on this point hard. She says that these Republicans can't use the words of unity that Joe Biden preaches to try and sweep all of their problems under the rug and try to basically make people forget about them. That we can't have unity without accountability of these Republican senators and congresspeople. She also said that Ted Cruz wanted her to apologize for some mean comments she made towards him, which I think is outrageous, especially when Ted Cruz was the person that was spreading misinformation and calling this election a fraud when it literally was not. And because of his actions, hundreds of congresspeople and senators' lives were put at risk. And finally, she calls for Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley to resign before getting into her story, which I am fully behind for the reasons that I just said and numerous other reasons that I could get into in an hour-long video. But because of the broader message that her story sends. Let's start with the story. Before the insurrection, AOC was feeling a sense of tension in the air in Washington, D.C. It got to the point that the day before the riots, there were people giving her death glares, and she didn't even feel safe in the public, so her partner had to go out and run any errands. There were also many Trump supporters outside of the Capitol, and the only thing blocking them from the building itself, the Capitol building, was a small fence and literally nothing else. Because AOC felt so unsafe with the overall situation, she talked to Capitol Police, and the Capitol Police said they had a plan, but they couldn't tell it to the congresspeople in the case that it got leaked. In my opinion, the Capitol Police clearly did not have a plan, and they just lied to the congresspeople, because anybody with a plan, let it even be a toddler, would have protected the building better than the Capitol Police on that day. On the day of the riots, AOC went into her office with her legislative director at 9 a.m. This was the day that they planned on swearing in Joe Biden as the 46th president of the United States. However, Republican congresspeople were objecting to the election results, and hence all of the people in Congress had to wait before they cast their vote. At this time, AOC got her second dose of the vaccine until around 12:45 in the evening. Then, around 1:01 p.m., she was scrolling through her phone looking for lunch, and suddenly she heard loud, violent bangs on her door and every other door in her office. There were no voices, no yells, and no identification behind the banging on her door. Please remember that. Because of this, she ran and hid in her bathroom. She decided that the bathroom was a bad place to hide, so she was about to make her way to the closet on the opposite side of her office, but when she was opening the door, she heard that whoever was trying to get into her office had done so successfully. She then retreated deeper into the bathroom, and the person who got into her office started yelling, "Where is she? Where is she?" AOC was in the bathroom hiding in the space between the door and the wall, so she looked between the hinges on the door and saw a man with a black hat in her office. She was so scared at this time that Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez thought her life was coming to an end in her own bathroom in the Capitol building. Because of these thoughts, she lost track of time. However, at some time near this event that she saw the person with the black hat, AOC heard her legislative director say, "Come out." It turns out that the man was Capitol Police. AOC was shocked because this member of the Capitol Police, who as a whole had done a terrible job of organizing any response to this event, started banging on her door and didn't even identify himself to the people in the office, which is something he should have definitely done in the moment. However, there was even more suspicion adding on to what the officer did, and this is the fact that he was staring daggers into her, looking angrily at both of the people in the office. Then, when he told them to go to an undisclosed building where all congresspeople were being evacuated to, he gave them very little information on how to get there and where exactly it was. Not only this, but the floor he told them to go was on the ground level or the same level that the rioters were on. After scrambling, AOC and her director found Representative Katie Porter's office. She stayed there with the lights off, the blinds closed, and athletic clothes on in the event that they would have to make a run for it from the office. Remember, she is a woman serving in Congress. Overall, AOC says that there was so much trauma she experienced on this one day. For one, she had to confront the fear of possible death in her own bathroom, and as well as this, when she was in Katie Porter's office, she noticed that the staffers in the office were putting their lives between any threat and the congresspeople's lives. The overall message that this story and others like it send is that we shouldn't just forget about this riot. For some reason, one of the most notable domestic terrorist incidents in our country's history is barely being talked about only a few weeks after it happened. So don't let a high volume news cycle from the right distract you from the fact that this happened. Not only did this happen, but there are 5 people that lost their lives because of these riots. The fact that Republicans have taken the message of unity and tried to conform it into something that they can use to basically lose all responsibility for their actions is insane to me. And the fact that a lot of people on the left are letting them get away with it is even more crazy. We should all take pointers from what AOC said in her Instagram live and just remember that this happened, and not only did this happen, but we have to keep on pushing for the resignation of Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, and any other congressperson that was linked to these riots. Also, we should try to preach against the misinformation that is being spread by the Republican Party, especially congresspeople such as Marjorie Taylor Greene, who I can make an entire video about if I wanted to. It's this cycle of misinformation that causes divide in our country, and when divide is caused, like I mentioned in my last video, there's always someone to take advantage of that population. Last time it was Donald Trump, and now it's just the Republican Party following in Trump's footsteps. With a divided population, the amount of terrorist attacks is just going to go up, and things like these are just going to become more and more common as time goes on. We have to put an end to it before it even begins, and no matter how hard the Republicans push back on this point, trying to say that, oh, we're just trying to be a unified country, you guys didn't want unity for the past 4 years when Donald Trump was spreading all these lies, so you can't just say that you want it now. And as much as Democrats want it and as much as people on the left want it, we want it under terms, and those terms are that you are held accountable for all the wrongdoings you have caused. My name is Abhinav Kumar, and thank you guys so much for watching. Good night.